You are now listening to Carlie's Couch.
I'm Carlie.
And I'm Lex.
In this podcast, we discuss a wide array of topics about life and how to live your best life.
Whatever that looks like for you.
Hope y'all enjoy. Hey, everybody.
Welcome to Carlie's Couch. It's Lextopia here.
And CC Fierce.
Carlie Carpio, to be exact. Not that you didn't know that already. We have... Damn, this year's been flying by. It's February, March? Oh,
March,
shit.
yeah.
Not sure when this episode comes out, by the way. Actually, no, this is next week, so this is still February.
Okay.
Is it?
I think so.
It's like the 24th today that we're recording this, so I don't know.
No, I think it's March because February only has 28 days.
Yeah, so we're almost done with the first quarter of this year.
Sheesh.
And we've been enjoying it. I've been enjoying it thus far. We've had a couple of good guests already for 2021, looking for more guests. We want a sex therapist. If you know anybody, let us know. Or, we should... I probably at this point can just use LinkedIn also to just like randomly hit people and see if they'd want to do it, because it takes like 45 minutes of your time. It's not that crazy. So maybe we should just like go look for the experts ourselves.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've been on this wave trying to find, people who are experts in their respective fields and have this research and have these gems to share with you all and actionable tools and things to share with us and stuff that we're interested in.
Because we know y'all tired of hearing us talk about love and light.
And journaling.
Right. Every episode. So journal.
And tune into yourself.
Right. Self-awareness. But that's
hey.
the main point of this. And I guess like self-awareness is important with all of these different aspects. Self-love is important with all these aspects. And I think what's interesting is that even in our own lives, I can speak for you because I feel like you've said this before too, but even in our own lives, it's like we see these same kind of lessons over and over, and sometimes they just hit different or based on what's going on or whatever. So we do want to make sure that we are giving you episodes that you enjoy, which I think you do, because I get messages, like on my birthday a few weeks ago, I got some messages from people who were saying like, oh, and I've been listening every week and so forth. So we do appreciate everybody who's listened, who's left a review, leaves comments, who engages with us week to week. And also for those of you who share the podcast. So continue to share it so we can spread out into some new networks as well. And this week we're going to talk about drugs.
Drogas.
Sex, alcohol, profanity.
Sex, love, and pain.
All the things that, well, not everybody, but all the things that a lot of people grew up thinking that these are not things that you should be doing or things to watch out for, or these are the things that's going to have you out here looking bad, etc. What was the point of why we were talking about this, though?
We try to base our episodes on life experiences, whether it's lessons or things that we're going through. And we were talking, after our last episode with John, we were talking about, man, what else do we want to talk about? What's kind of going on with us? And somehow we started talking about new experiences. And
somebody mentioned cocaine. I don't even know what was happening there.
And drugs in specific. And we were laughing because we were like, yo, like
sucks because I'm over here sniffing now. Somebody was talking about cocaine, but I have allergies, FYI.
How about if you watching the video? If you not watching the video, it's no cocaine here.
I'm be real clear. There was not a lot of cocaine on the coffee table before we started this.
I don't even have a coffee table, so here we are.
It's not a real suspect. I really am lying though. I mean, I'm not lying. Shit.
Damn.
Whatever. Let's continue.
Freudian slip. But
let's continue.
We started talking about new experiences and drugs in specific. And I was talking about how I didn't really smoke weed for the first time until my 31st birthday or something like that. Shout out to Tay. And then we're like, man, why did it take us so long to try certain things, or, what led us here, or why did I even make that decision? Why did I wait until that long to start smoking, and why do it now? Like, if I made it this long without it, like, why do it? And so that's kind of how we got to this topic today.
Yeah, because I feel like by the time you're, especially in your 30s, like if you're just trying new things, or even late 20s or whatever, if you're just trying new things, you probably were making a conscious effort to avoid them or to not participate in that behavior earlier on. And so we were just kind of brainstorming around why that is, what changes, and our thoughts around those particular experiences. So what are like some of those things that we grow up hearing that are bad or don't do it, or, they tell you to avoid, that kind of fit into this topic?
I mean, the first one is drugs, which is how we started this whole entire conversation. Because, like, the whole time we were growing up, it was Dare. You know, weed is a gateway drug.
They went so hard with Dare too. Like, for what? Like
that line, and now they had to backtrack on all them words.
Yeah, they did. And I remember we even had like a when we air quote graduated from Dare, whatever it was, we had a whole performance we had to do. Like we had these t-shirts, these Dare t-shirts that were fire. We had these Dare t-shirts, and I remember, not like yesterday, but I remember it a little too vividly, that we had to like do this like side step, side to side, and clap, and we had to sing like a song, like the Dare to keep the kids off drugs. And our parents were there. I remember I want to say her name was Officer Singletary. I remember we had an officer who like came to our classes and was like talking to us about drugs, and it's just like, bro, like it's real. I feel like they try to scare you when it comes to drugs, and they tell you that, you know, they're gonna fry your brain. They tell you that you're not gonna have a future, and all of those things. Which, do you feel like, looking back, that was? This might be two separate questions, but that was accurate, and or also that was helpful, or that it was good. Like, you're glad you went through that.
I don't know how helpful it was, because most of it was about weed. And now there's all of this scientific research showing that, you know, CBD is actually really helpful for a plethora of health things, whether mental or physical. CBD though now.
Let's not get it too twisted.
That's true. Not THC necessarily, but I don't know how helpful it was, but also I didn't do drugs, so I guess it was effective, if anything. Yeah,
but I think that was also a big part of like the bigger environment that we grew up in too. But I'm trying to think. Like, I don't know. It was already kind of instilled in me, like, drugs are bad. And so for me, I thought it was interesting learning about drugs. Like, I'm like, I never heard of this stuff, like hashish and heroin and stuff. Like, I didn't even know. Well, probably at that time, because I think it was elementary school that we did it. So at this time, I'm like, I don't even know what this stuff is. Like, y'all let me know what's going on.
Oh man, they gave y'all the exotic thing, because in Oklahoma it was basically just weed. Like, we didn't really, and meth, because it's Oklahoma, but we didn't really learn about a lot of the other things. And it was never like education. Ours was just don't do it.
Well, the whole education against drugs, I think, probably was helpful in me seeing it in a light where I'm like not pressed to try it. But again, I also wasn't around that activity, so it's not like I directly saw like my peers doing certain things, which is usually what's like the most persuasive to us when we're doing things. So I don't know. It's just kind of whatever. When we look back at this stuff now, though, I think when it comes to a lot of things in science, or it's particular to education around sex and drugs, things like that to your point, it's like they didn't even really know what they was talking about. And it's just not that deep. So it makes more sense, I think, or maybe this is for your family's job. I know teachers and things like that, they a lot of times have to take on like roles of kind of parents and like talking about certain things, but I think it's important to have discussions around drugs in a way that keeps it real with people, but mostly that makes it so that they feel open to actually talk about it, which I think is what's missing from a lot of education that's like anti-do a thing.
I don't think any of those conversations are ever two-way. And I think that's where they're lacking. Like, whether it's in school, whether it's and that's not even just drugs, that's any of these other things we're about to talk about. Like, I think that, of course, it's the parent's job. You shouldn't like leave it up to other people in the world to educate your kids. But in places where they don't have education around these certain things, like, you got to have those conversations. And if anything, I want my kids, in the future to be able to come to me about stuff.
Yeah, and especially as an adult, too, when you actually look around and realize how many teachers, doctors, like, it ain't like smoking weed is for bums. Like, when you look around and see how many people actually participate in doing drugs, we got professors talking about they do heroin for work-life balance. Like,
Google that article.
Yeah, like, it's like, oh, okay, why are we going so hard when y'all all do it? But it's about knowing how to do a thing, or at what level or balance that makes more sense. So it just, when you look back on these things, it always just seems so, what's the word I'm looking for? When you say a thing and do another thing. Starts with H?
I don't.
Or maybe
H threw me off, but I was like, that's a contradiction.
Yeah. Hypocrite is what I was thinking about.
Okay, I was like,
damn, I don't know why I threw the H out like that, but I knew it was somewhere.
You knew.
But it seems so hypocritical now, and it's like, why were y'all like that? Like, Officer Singletary probably smoking weed after the dare like class. Like, yeah. So come on.
And last thing about that, we definitely understand there's a lot of government implications and why certain drugs carry certain sentences and like how they were used.
Yeah, I'm not telling you go light up right now in a place where it's not legal as it is in LA. Yeah. Shout out Los Angeles.
Shout out to LA.
And many cities now, but
Colorado as well. But yeah, so we know that that's the thing. And also in that same vein, like tobacco and alcohol, like it was just a bunch of stuff when we were growing up. Like I wasn't in the DARE thing. We didn't have that at my school, but there was a SWAT program and it was students working against tobacco. Students working against tobacco. And I like did this whole course and I was mainly doing because my mom smoked and I thought it was terrible. But also, and this might sound a little judgy and I'm not usually judgy about things, but if you're still smoking cigarettes right now in this day and age and you're our age, you need to work on that. Okay.
Yeah, I grew up in Winston-Salem, which is the home of Winston Cigarettes. And RJ Reynolds, because I went to RJ Reynolds High School, RJ Reynolds in Winston was the big tobacco guy. And they were the ones who did all the cigarette factories and tobacco plants in that area. So North Carolina is very known, and the South Carolina, probably Virginia too, very much known for tobacco and tobacco crops. And so growing up there, that was a big part of the industry. People worked there and in it. And I feel like back in the day, well, let me say this. I see now there's way more of like smoking cigarettes just isn't cool, period, anyway. Back then it was like, okay, it was like kind of cool. And that's evolved from when you could smoke on planes and smoking in restaurants sections. And clubs. Like, yeah, like when I was in college, we still could smoke a black and mild in the club, like whatever. I was telling somebody the other day how I was like, man, going to the club in college was like a real decision because as a black woman too, I would always be like, okay, if I go out, I know I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna have to wash my hair and I'm gonna have to do this because it's like everything would just be permeated with smoke. And so I remember that being such a big thing, like, oh, now you don't have to really worry about it as much. And for whatever reason, weed smoke don't really stay on you like that hard. But yeah, I think that tobacco, I feel like I didn't see as much education specifically to tobacco, but because I wasn't around people who were cigarette smokers, it just wasn't really a thing for me. Alcohol, for sure, is something that, from how I just grew up, I guess, and same with regular drugs. I think, like, my parents don't drink, and so I think that's usually a thing that you see around the home life. And I think it's interesting also when you look at other cultures like France or even watching foreign films, you'll see kids have a glass of wine at the table because it's like, okay, this is a regular part of life. Like it's a beverage. Like you're not about to get twisted off a glass of wine. And so you learn how to drink and you learn like what makes sense and what's doing too much, what's not, et cetera. And so I think it's really a cultural thing and like how you do this stuff.
Absolutely. And for me, it's the opposite. Like my parents were alcoholics. And so I was like, like my grandmother was just like, Carlie, don't ever drink. Like it was like a terrifying thing. Like, please don't ever drink. And so I carried a lot of like fear and guilt and shame around like partaking at all. Like I didn't drink until I turned 21 and all this stuff. And I was so nervous. I was going to be an alcoholic. It was like a whole thing.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to think when I started drinking. I don't think I really drank until, but I have a story about drinking also. I remember one time in the Bahamas being at my aunt's house and our family was there visiting with her. And I remember my mom with her sister, she's the one who's from the Bahamas. I remember her having like a Heineken and I must have been super young. I don't remember how old. I mean, not super young, like irresponsible young, but like probably between 12 and 15 maybe. But I remember my mom saying like, have a sip. Like just kind of passing me like, you can have a sip of this Heineken. And I remember tasting it and being like, ugh, this is so nasty. But then also my dad had found out about it and he was really upset with my mom. And I remember him being like, why would you do that? And like, oh, what? Don't do that. Like he's real extra, right? Like I feel like my parents in general, but my dad more so, are more on the lines of like, don't even put that in front of you or don't even do the thing. Mm-hmm. But what I realized much later on in life when I remember this and think back to it, it's interesting the things you remember from your childhood as an adult. It's like that was the number one reason why I never wanted to really try drinking like that because I'd had a sip and it was fucking disgusting. Mm-hmm. And so like that was the main reason why I was like, oh, okay, that's what y'all been drinking? Like I'm good. Like I'm not really pressed. Fast forward, I don't really remember drinking until freshman year of college. So I definitely like that first night or first week at least. I remember I had 2 little shots of E&J. I was on the floor.
Oh God!
I remember I was on the floor wilding. And I was like, this is great. And then from there it was whatever during college. So my craziest alcohol nights were after college when I had like a air quote real job. And then it's like, you had nothing else to be doing. So I used to be out every night. Wilding out. And that's 23, 24. And that's also the first time I had sex. I was 23 or 24. So that was after college. So for me, to move this on, I guess, to sex, also, I think a lot of people here and are so like anti doing things or anti have sex or don't have sex before marriage, which I don't hear as much pushed. I'm sure within people's families and church life, et cetera, you hear that. But yeah, sex is another one of those things where it's like, well, I'm just not going to be worried about it. And I just never, I don't know, I never was pressing. I never did.
And see, it's so interesting because like living in California now and knowing people from here, they'll be like, yeah, you know, sex education back in middle school. And I'm like, wait, y'all had sex ed? They're like, yeah, you didn't. And I'm like, I'm from Oklahoma where abstinence is the only thing. But that's also why the teenage pregnancy rate was so damn high because people didn't know how anything worked. I remember like being at OU and we had, oh man, I forgot what they're called. They're the sex, not sexcapades,
not the sexcapades.
They're whatever. But they will come talk to you about sex because they know that all of us coming up there don't actually understand any of this shit. And so, like, I mean, most people have probably had sex but don't understand like how people actually get pregnant and condoms and all these things. And so they would, I forgot, sexperts. That's what they're called. That's probably easier.
Oh, sexperts. You talking about sexcapades?
Well, but they would do like little events and stuff and give away condoms and give away things if you would come and like learn like freshman year in the dorms and just moving out here and realizing like that's something that people had been getting educated on about the health and how it affects people and all that stuff and just realizing that we missed out on it. So sex was a big thing. And there were so many people getting pregnant in middle school and high school, like where I'm from.
Yeah, now that I look back, it was a lot of people in high school getting pregnant. And I think it was high school. I think we had some sex ed. I don't really recall it that crazy. It was just like a half type course. But I do remember being like how I was like, I don't want to say I was a sexual deviant, but I remember like when I learned about masturbation, I was telling my friend the other day, I was like, damn, I remember when I first found out about masturbation. I think because we used to always go to the library and get books. I think I read like one of those books that like tries to talk about sex and stuff. And I remember reading about it and be like, oh, and I was so wild. Like at one point, like I remember being in the library, like I would just be masturbating everywhere. Like I would just randomly be walking around with my hand in my pants, like going crazy, like for no reason. But yeah, I just remember being so into it, but I never felt like a desire to like be with a person. That's also probably because of other things. Like I just was not boy crazy. I wasn't into dudes. I was fighting dudes more than anything. So, but I remember like expressing it. Like I'd write like crazy letters. I remember leaving a voicemail on this guy's answer machine one time, on his family answer machine. Like, what is going on? But it's like I was trying to express it or like it was going on, but I just wasn't doing anything physically. So
that's so interesting that you talk about that with the masturbation story. I guess I was too. I was so curious.
That was middle school, I think, for me, that I was just going ham.
Same. Because I was just curious and didn't know, like, you know what I mean? And so just exploring these things and like your body and like learning all that stuff. And also there was no education. So it's like, like reading books and then just doing that. So that's so interesting.
I think I listened to the whole abstinence thing where I was just, I just wasn't pressed. And so after college, when I had like my second boyfriend, that's when I started being sexually active. And then from there, it was just like, whatever, turn up. So there's literally like, I mean, this ain't y'all's business, but it's really not nothing I would not do. And I don't know too many things that I have not tried or done. So it's like, I don't feel like held back in any way either. And then to a degree, like I very much know my body and all of those things. So I don't know. I think it's a sad thing that we don't have more openness around discussing it. But also I can say that and also admit that I be feeling uncomfortable when I see stuff like that, like watching Euphoria and watching these shows. And it's like, I don't want to watch this or see kids or think about kids entertaining sex and all of that. But at the same time, it's like, well, we have to make an environment where, again, they understand or have knowledge. I don't know if you've seen Bridgerton, where the character, the one of the main girls, I don't remember their names like that, but she was like, oh, her mom didn't prepare her. Like, she got married and she didn't know how you get pregnant. Like, she did not know what ejaculation or any of that stuff. Like, she was just understanding or like learning about her body. Granted, she was also probably like 15 or 16. But I just think it's interesting what we choose to just not talk about in a lot of these cases, and that being the reason why we don't try it, or that we like go on our own and just wild out.
And like how that can lead to like lackluster experiences, or the fact that you might not ever try anything else just because you didn't have education, didn't have exposure, are scared or not open to things, or not comfortable with your own body. And it just comes from that whole like culture around like, you know, abstinence, and around calling things not biological names and acting like things are different. And especially religion has done so much for sexuality, like to stifle women's specifically. So that's a huge area. And that's why I was like, man, we should have a sex therapist on to talk about like that type of stuff, and growth and knowing yourself and exploration and all that.
When growing up, did you hear a lot of profanity around you? Or
Yes.
And so were you comfortable, or were you allowed to say to curse or whatever?
So also probably TMI, but my parents used to fight a lot, and I've talked about this before. My stepfather was very physically abusive to my mom, and him and my mom are both alcoholics when I was growing up. And the only time that I cursed, and the only time I felt comfortable cursing, because I wouldn't curse at school, I didn't curse anywhere else, but I would curse at him to leave her alone, and to protect my mom and do stuff like that. And boy, I would curse him out. Like, I would incinerate him with words. But that's the only time. Like, outside of that, I had no desire to curse. Like, at track practice, people would be cursing, doing stuff. Like, one of my homeboys used to make fun of me because I would skip all the curse words and songs. He's like, yo, you're so whack.
I can't even listen to them songs.
But I curse a lot now. But yeah, I grew up around all that.
Looking back, I feel like I remember at high school, like, people were cursing so much, and it would just be like, yo, y'all going so hard. Cool. Even now, it's like, yo, like, I don't want to hear you. That's the only words that come out. It's like, all right, what other vocabulary do you know? But at the same time, I definitely grew up in a house where my parents don't curse. I still remember to this day, like, I've probably got my feelings hurt the most. The one day, I remember me and my mom, I was probably just talking back or something, and she's like, shut the hell up. And I remember being like, well, I'm super shook. Because they don't even say that. Like, we can't even say lie. You know how in a lot of black households and stuff, too, you can't even be like, lie, or you lied, or told a lie. Like, it's like, come on, y'all. Like, it's just words. But I remember an eye-opening kind of experience when I was studying in Spain in college, and the people that I lived with there, it was like a older woman and guy, a mom and dad, and they had a family. But like, I recognized a big cultural difference that in Spain, they would use the F word, or joder. They would say that all the time, like, joder tu madre, joder, joder, joder. And like, whatever. And I'm like, oh, y'all cool with that? Like, but also, I guess here, there's people like that too. But they're just like, yeah, it's just words. Like, but in general, culturally, like, you can hear that on regular TV and everything. And it's just like, yeah, like, what's the problem? Like, it's not that deep until we make it that deep, which I feel like we do here. So I remember being so interested in, like, oh, you can say anything. Like, they were just going in, but it was like, okay, that's just part of language. That doesn't mean anything. It's not like you're really like cursing a person unless you go hard on, somebody, but you could do that without using particular words. So for me, I curse a lot now, but I also still don't curse around my parents. Like, I was texting my dad and I said LMAO accidentally, and he was like, what did he say? He said, I'm assuming that A is for some other word. And I was like, Dad, come on, bro. Like, still, you know what I mean? I'm 36, like, please. But that's how they are. And I respect the ability to tone it down when you need to tone it down. And I don't think you should be in like every environment going crazy. Gary Vaynerchuk, for example, in his professional life, he talks about like, yo, I cuss a lot, but like, also, if you have a problem with me cursing and you don't work with me because of it, it's like, yo, do you want results, or do you, like, what's more important? But also, like, it's people's right if you want to be that person. For me, it's like, I'm not that pressed to curse in all environments, for example. But I think it's interesting how we like evilify. There's definitely a better word for that. Vilify. That's literally the word. It was something else I was thinking. I was like, that ain't it. But like how we really vilify people who, have premarital sex, who curse or whatever, like smoke weed or whatever. And it's just really talking to people and being out in society. It's like, yo, none of this is that deep.
Also, like thinking about relationships and cohabitation and being from somewhere in the Bible Belt, it's like, no premarital sex and don't move in with people. Don't shack up before y'all get married and blah, 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 blah. And I think it's just such an interesting thing to avoid or have a fear about or have such a strong stance from you don't even know.
Yeah, it's one of the things where like, why is that anybody's business anyway?
Exactly.
Like,
why are you
And then I
pressed?
see so many people who just are learning about each other after they get married that it's like y'all are wilding. But I'm not mad at people who don't want to cohabitate. I think it's fine, but it's also like, okay, do y'all know how much rent is right now? Like, it makes sense. Like if you're seeing
Just
a person
make it
every
make
day or
sense.
whatever, yeah, make it make sense for you and like keep it moving. Other things that we thought about too are like things like tattoos and how. I want to say, this might be ignorant, but I want to say over time, things like tattoos have gotten much more, or much less of like a bad rep for people, but you still, and even I'll still, like if I saw somebody with tattoos all over their face, like you still kind of look at them like, oh, okay, I see you on some other stuff. But for the most part, it's like, okay, I got my first tattoo, I think when I was like 18, and then I took a long break because they fucked me up. And then I just started getting them all the time after that. And it's just like, it's not that serious. Like once I moved to LA and I felt like I was in an environment where I could more so get away with it, I think, is when I started really getting the visual ones or the ones that people could see that I can't really hide like that. And I feel like it's more accepted now.
Yeah, it's definitely an LA thing. Another one is, speaking of LA, living in a big city, especially being from somewhere small. And I put this on the list because I think there's so much fear and things around like, man, so many people get murdered in New York and LA is this and that. And it's just like, cause you have such a small bubble and you don't see outside of it. And it's like, no, you got to get out and explore, like visit bigger cities, go live in them, go try different things. I just think, there's just such a misconception about things. Like even in Oklahoma, some Oklahomans think like Dallas and Houston are so big. Like, oh, I could never live in a big city. And I just like, okay.
Yeah, try it. I mean, yeah, just try it. There's other stuff too, like the type of entertainment you listen to. Like I grew up where I didn't watch rated R movies. That's why people make fun of me because I haven't seen a lot of movies. I couldn't watch rated R movies like that. And then I also wasn't that interested. Like so certain things, it wasn't like I was trying to do it and they were like, don't do that. But I just kind of, maybe how I was socialized, I just wasn't really that into it anyway. And music, because I was basically listening to like Quiet Storm type shit with my parents in the car all the time, stuff like that. When it came time for me to listen to music, I knew if I was listening to rap music or whatever, my parents come around, like I'd have to turn down real quick or something. So I ended up listening mostly to alternative music growing up. And that's just what happened until I got a little older. So I think you just kind of, for me, I just kind of like adapted to what was available at the time. And then I just kind of switched it up later or explored new things later.
Man, I remember back when we used to go to Blockbuster or Hollywood Video. I used to beg my mom to let me watch. I don't know why these are the two movies that I wanted to see, but for whatever reason, Waiting to Exhale and Booty Call. And I would just beg her. She was like, no, like absolutely not. So I went to my cousins and I'm the youngest. I'm like the baby by like 6 years. And my cousin was like, wait, you want to see what? Okay, I got you. Like, it would let me
Right,
like watch
here
the
it goes.
movies. Like, here we go. It's not that big of a deal.
I remember seeing Coming to America the first time, and I was at my aunt's house in the Bahamas because, like, they weren't as pressed. Like, if it was playing, it was playing. But even now, like, if I try to watch something with my dad, for example, and like they start kissing and making out, like you could tell, like when your parents get uncomfortable, and you'd be like, and like start making comments. And it's like, Dad, we don't need this. Like, you're making it weird. Whatever. What else?
Spiritual things. Living in LA, I think that's huge, and maybe it's more upfront for me because I teach yoga and mindfulness and meditation. But there's such a stigma around spirituality and anything. Like back home, people in Oklahoma, like, wait, y'all pray to rocks? You carry around these crystals and blah blah blah, yoni eggs and tarot cards, and that's the devil. I had a whole conversation on Facebook with one of my elementary school teachers about how mindfulness and meditation are forced religion in schools on kids. In all these things, and I was just like, I'm not about to do this with y'all. That's why I'm
Right,
there.
like it's not that deep. And that's things where you need just more education around. Also, even maybe falls into that a little bit is like therapy. Like there's a lot of people who don't think you should be doing.
You should be able to pray it away. You're not praying hard enough.
Yeah, no. So what are the reasons then why with all of these different types of things, what were like the reasons when you did try it, or if you tried it, like that came about?
The reason why I did try things?
That you grew up kind of thinking like, oh, I shouldn't do that.
Oh, because fear. I think fear is a big one. Like whenever you see those commercials, like this is your brain on drugs, and it's like a scrambled egg, and it's like, oh man, I don't want to like throw my life away by smoking one joint. Like I don't know what's going on.
Oh, sorry. Why didn't you? Okay, my bad. I was asking why you did, but I got ahead. So that's fair.
Okay. So I didn't. So I think fear is a reason why people don't try things, whether that's fear from socialization or whatever. I think it's just there's a lot of fear around things that people haven't been exposed to or don't understand, aren't educated on.
One of the biggest things that kept me from doing certain things, I think, was well, this is a fear too, but like not wanting to be an outlier or just wanting to fall into place with things. So like again, my family was big in the church. Like we went to youth group stuff all the time, and like I was in the kids group, and we did our like Bible studies and little Bible camps and all these little things. So of course, you don't want to be that person who's like, and there's always a couple of them, but like you don't want to be that person who's like blatantly wilding out. And also to that, when you have a community, like a church type of community, you don't want to be the kid that like bring shame on the family. Sounds real extra, but like you don't want to be that person who's like making your family look, air quote, look bad. And so it's like, all right, I'm gonna just chill.
I think that's a huge one, not wanting your family to look bad.
Yeah, you don't embarrass your people when they blatantly are like, trying to teach you the right things or what they believe to be the right things.
Mm-hmm. I know. And I think another one, and this is maybe a little bit later, like after you're like grown, kind of why some people don't do things is because it's like comparative superiority. Like, I don't smoke weed. And like they kind of look down on people for doing things. And it's like, if you feel like you need to have an upper hand on somebody, sometimes you'll abstain from things just to have that. And I've seen that, and I saw I think they were talking about it on some podcast I was listening to, but they were like, if you don't have a reason why you're not doing something or trying something, but you're so quick to talk down on it, like you need to look at your reasons.
That is a good one too, because I've been kind of that person. I don't think I was trying to like not do it because of that, but it was always like kind of something that can make you feel like you're special, because like, oh, I've never done that, or I've never done this, or I've never done that. And then after a while it's like, oh, okay, for what? Like, pass me the weed. Like, what are y'all doing? And also I think when I did try things, I don't think I thought about it that hard. I think it was just like, oh, okay, I'll try it. Like I don't. Trying drugs was like, okay, cool. Some of the harder drugs are some things that I avoided for a little bit longer. Even when I tried, I'm like, I know who I am, and I know like, I don't know. I'm not like wilding out. I'm not gonna do the most, but like I know what I'm getting into at this point, and how to control myself, or believe I can control myself enough that it's not gonna become like some crazy issue. Trying to think of what else. Yeah, because with sex, like because I started being sexually active so much later, I did. I kind of had control until I got out of relationships, and I had my little wild out period, which has come back to haunt me in a couple different weird ways. But for the most part, I feel like, okay, this is life. Like you have to understand people live life, they do things that they do, and I think the part of the issues with these types of things is that we go so far to vilify them that we don't recognize like how prevalent it really is. Yep. And not to say that, oh, if everybody's doing it, like, okay, it's cool. But at the same time, it's like, hey, if we just all talked about this and are as regular people who have tried things and do things, then it wouldn't have to be like everybody slightly hiding. If that made sense. Like, we don't have to act like, oh, in meetings, like everybody's acting like they don't do this or that, but it's like, but we all do it. So like, let's just be more open. Yeah. Like just be more open about it. And I think I start to see with social media and with other ways of communication seeming more open, that you get a little bit more of a view of things that are happening that you might not necessarily like hear about or discuss otherwise. And so I feel like some things are becoming more acceptable, or like people can listen to it and not be like, oh man, you're crazy or you're terrible or whatever, which I think is good.
Yeah, and I think if people, back to the two-way conversation, people just were more open, it would remove a lot of the barriers that keep people from trying these things and would probably actually keep people safer when
learning
doing them.
about them.
Yeah, for just educating yourself. When thinking about why I tried things when I didn't, like, so for example, not smoking weed for so long and then actually trying it for real, I didn't think about it that hard. It wasn't like, okay, for my birthday, I want to smoke weed. It was Tay was out here for my birthday and she was like, yo, you trying to smoke? And I was like, why not?
Like,
Yeah. Okay, cool. Because I remember I had went over to Lexi's house not too long after that, and someone had asked me if I wanted to smoke, and she was like, "Nah, she don't smoke." I was like, "Yeah, sure." You kind of looked at me. I was just like, "Eh." It's a thing. It's like, why not? And I realized that I was kind of doing the comparative superiority, not like to look down on people, but like you were saying, like I've never done that.
Have a badge for.
It's a thing that I wear this I don't smoke weed badge, and now it's like, I don't. It's not really my thing, but I don't have anything against it. Like, it is what it is. I've tried it. It's not for me. And I think knowing who I am and being willing to explore that was kind of what got me to be open to trying other things. And I was sexually active a little bit earlier. And so then I went into this whole like nun phase because I was like, oh, I, got to get right with God and all these things. And then like I've been, just open to that and discovering more about myself. But I think it really comes down to questioning why you don't do things or why you hold such strong beliefs or negative thoughts or stigmas about things, and then figuring out what works for you, because that's really all that matters.
Yeah. And I think a lot of this is our socialization, the environments we grew up in. We have two very different families, but we're both grew up in societies that were very much Bible Belt. And even if you're not a churchy person in the South, like you still can't get liquor without going to the ABC store before
norms.
9 p.m. Like,
and not on Sundays, baby.
Yeah, so like it's still things that tell you all around you, like, this is not right, this is right, So you grow up in that way to where, ooh, if you see this person doing that, then it's like, ooh, that's bad. And so I think the way you're socialized has a huge part to do with that. And so I would encourage listeners, y'all probably old enough where y'all like, I done did all this, but just encourage you to continue to be open-minded around what other people do, period. Like being less judgmental, being open to accepting certain things. You don't have to try. I'm not telling y'all go shoot up right now or anything like that, but not being like pressed about what things you don't do and like just kind of live your life.
Yeah. Because going back to those badges, like I remember playing like the drinking games. It's like never have I ever, and people be so excited, and it's like damn, because I was like, damn, I want to die and never have tried any of these things.
Yeah, I'd be out, and Carlie be like, I ain't do nothing. But
we ain't played in a while,
right? See, I turned up on us, but I think it's also kind of cool. And I like how a lot of the things that I turned up on have been like in my 30s, and to me that's kind of cool because it's like I'm a grown ass woman, like I said, like. I know what I'm doing. And there's still things I'm like, okay, I still have things that I want to try and don't feel no kind of way about it. So it's whatever.
Yo, I get mad excited about I'm like, yo, I got all these things I get to experience.
Don't wait too long. Not that you should OD on all of that stuff like immediately, but when you get the opportunity, sometimes it's like, all right. And I think it depends on who you're around, like I'll never be in a random party and then be like, oh, I'm trying to do this or that. Like I'm good on that.
Absolutely
but
not.
In certain circumstances with your people, control space, whatever it is, like, try what you get to try. And then one of the biggest things too that I thought about also with this topic is just the idea of repressing your desires. And I feel like, and this is actually stats, which I have not looked up, sorry, but I've heard and seen so often that in the Bible Belt, like in the South and going a little bit into the Midwest there is so much more of particular types of crimes, particular types of activities because they're so sexually repressed. Or because they're so repressed, it's like, that's why you find like they, people and senators be having men escorts gagged up in their basements and people being serial killers and serial rapists. And it's like, bro, they've never been allowed to like actually explore themselves in an open way. And so you kind of just become crazy and dark and grotesque. And that's a real thing. And so instead of being repressed and or for people who have kids or work with youth, et cetera, it's very important, I think, to not necessarily repress these desires that are very natural in everybody, but to kind of provide the environment that allows education and allows, some realness to get in there so that people can understand, like, it's okay.
And in today's information age, like kids have so much access to so many other things that we didn't. All we had was books. When we were trying to do
still won't be knowing the details.
Yeah, but they don't know the details. But then if you don't create that safe space and brave space for them to talk about it with you, then like they're just gonna ask their friends who also don't understand what's happening. And I'm only going in hard on this because I coach volleyball, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade girls. Y'all, give them brave spaces to talk about these things, please.
Yeah, so that's our Sex, Drugs, and Mayhem episode. Let's use that as a title, I guess.
I like that.
And so hit us up this week. Hit us up and tell us, maybe tell us something you... Nah, I don't know. Y'all might not be wanting to do all that. I was going to say tell us something you haven't tried yet. But we'll stick to what the question of the week is. So when we get to the question of the week, maybe that's something that you guys can hit us with this week. Yeah. But first, we got a shout out.
So this week's shout out is The Aura Shop. It is a collection of luxe artisanal bath soaks, mindfully handcrafted in Brooklyn, New York, with the organic ingredients, botanicals, and love. These soaks are great for self-care rituals and are gentle on sensitive skin. There are 3 blends available now, and we'll link the website, but it is theaurashop.earth, and they are created by artist Simone Seraphim. She's creating a new line of bath products influenced by some of the natural materials that she uses in her multimedia art pieces. And so you can check out the website, learn more about her, support her art. It's Black History Month, and supporting Black women always, and especially during Black History Month. If it's March, then we're still supporting, so that's what it is. But check her out and let us know what you think. Get your soak on.
That's cool. And then this week's question of the week. Carlie, what's one thing you haven't experienced yet that you would try?
Man, there's a lot, but I will... the first thing that came to mind, I want to try...
A 5 soon.
Whoa. Haven't thought about that. I'll come back to
it. Whoops.
So I am thinking about like ayahuasca. Like, so what are those... what are they called whenever it makes you take a trip, but you...
LSD?
No, it's in the same family. Yeah, LSD, I guess. But they're drugs that make you have...
hallucinogens?
Thank you. I haven't... I want to try like some of those. I've seen a lot of research. A couple of the entrepreneurs that I follow like go on ayahuasca trips every year and do LSD and do all these things, and not saying that's what I'm going to do, but I'm definitely looking into it and seeing the benefits in your brain and opening up different parts. So that's pretty interesting. There's also a lot of really cool research around psilocybin and what it does for your health. So shrooms and the things that it can actually do if you microdose and different stuff. So look that up. That's kind of interesting.
So you're saying you would experience... You do want to try shrooms, or are you saying you already have?
Oh, I've tried shrooms, but I in microdoses. So like for the health stuff, but I want to try for the more.
You got to try that 3.5 of.
Yeah,
the
I only
shrooms.
had a half thing.
When I try something, I wild out. I Google like how much do I actually need to see purple dragons?
That's what I want.
What was it like? An 1/8? Cool. I took a whole 3.5.
So that's what I want. I only did half of that, and it was cool. But I was like, no, I want the full like hallucinogenic experience. But then I've heard like with ayahuasca and LSD and different things, it's like a whole different journey. So I want to see what that is.
Well, so I was gonna say acid. So I don't know if that's the same thing.
LSD is acid, right?
Yeah, LSD is.
Yeah.
But I didn't know if the word you were using, ayahuasca knows or whatever.
That's like in like Mexico and South America. It's like those trips, but I think it's very similar, but they're like natural herbs.
Yeah, I think, I would still try acid. Not too many other drugs I haven't tried that I think I would try, because I'm not doing nothing with needles.
No meth.
I can't really think of too many sexual things that aren't like super specific that I'm not about to list off. So yeah, I'm gonna stick to acid. So listeners, hit us up. Let us know what your thoughts are on growing up and just trying different experiences. What you're glad happened, what you're you wish you had learned or gotten, and maybe let us know like what is something that you haven't done yet that you want to try.
Hit us up at Carlie's Couch on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Lextopia, at CC Fierce /Carlie Carpio.
Peace out.
Bye, y'all.